Yeah, it's going to start recording now, and it's Wayne Moseley with a beautiful indie show special on Hive Radio UK. I am truly blown away by the fact that I've got both members of this Twisted Wreckage today, because I met Luke for the first time in July 2022. I've now got Ricky Humphrey. So, how are you both?
We're good. We're good, thank you.
Thanks, mate. Doing great. How are you?
Yeah, really good, and even better because I'm chatting with my band of 2023. You guys smashed it. You know, the fact that you released 2 albums last year, Billions in May 23, and then 3 times 10 equals 29 in November. How do you keep it up? How you know, this momentum of material that you've got?
It's not easy.
Well, you know, between the two of you, just to point out to my listeners that you created this fine body of work, but you've never physically met yet, have you?
No, I live in California.
Yeah, I'm down here in the south of England.
Yeah.
And
yeah, but here's the weird thing, you know, sometimes people talk about how social media divides people rather than bringing them together. After I think Ricky and I are a prime example of the opposite of that, because, you know, we've never met in person, but it's kind of hard to believe, it's been 4 years. And probably something like about 175 pieces of music completed in that time. But you know, we have to communicate a lot by text and occasional calls. But you know, I've come to, like, Ricky's one of my best friends. I've never met the bloke, and he's one of my best friends. You know, it's wonderful. It's really cool.
well, let's rewind then, because for anyone out there, there is an interview on YouTube with Luke that you can dip into, which gives you a feel for this Twisted Wreckage at that particular time. But rewinding then, how did you two first connect before it led to this Twisted Wreckage?
Well, it starts with me. I was in a situation where basically my wife and I were made homeless because there was a fire below our apartment. So that rendered us, as I say, homeless, and all I had to my name were the clothes on my back and my laptop, which had a few sort of, you know, scratch ideas on there and bits and pieces. And I was sitting, we was very fortunate. Our neighbours put us up for about 4 months, actually, whilst the renovation work was being done on that in this property. And what happened thereafter, I was going through a few tracks. I'm thinking there's nothing I can do. I was going a bit sort of nuts. And this all happened round about the time of COVID as well. It couldn't have happened at a worse time. So I'm sitting there, got a couple of ideas kicking about, and I thought, I'm going to chance my arm. I'm going to approach Luke and see if he would be interested in doing a vocal on one of my songs. So that was kind of how that sort of, that was how the whole idea sort of commenced, really. And then I was just bowled over by the fact that he went, yeah, I'll have a go at that. So send me the track and I'll have a go. And yeah, so consequently, send Luke the track, and yeah, consequently I'll get the vocal back, and I'm sitting there playing about it and thinking, this is amazing. There's something here. There's a chemistry here, you know, and that was it.
What was that first track then, Luke?
It was called Forgotten Summer, and it's strange that there were 2 tragedies that happened at the same time that this Twisted Wreckage came out of. So as Ricky said, there was the fire. It was like a serious deal. It was a huge fire in the apartment below his, and he was, as he said, he was homeless. And around the time that he sent me this piece of music, I got a shock phone call from England to tell me that the son of a close friend of mine back in England had taken his own life, and I was gutted. You know, I couldn't believe it. Nobody saw it. Nobody. And so that was about I think the day after, Ricky sent me the music, and I listened to it and gone, oh, this is great. Yeah, I'll definitely do something with this. So I'm sitting there gutted, and I thought, I know how to express how I felt. So I just brought his music up and armed a microphone, and I just started singing about, how could you forget the summer? How could, why have you done this? Why have you, and I was trying to make it non-specific to somebody who'd taken their life, and all his lyrics came out, and they came out of the music and how I was feeling. And so that's what I sent back to him, pretty much. I mean, I think I did a little bit of editing on it, but it was off the top of my head. And the really weird thing is that has happened so many times. Ricky will send me a piece of music, I'll start listening to it, and either pictures come into my head or words come into my head and melodies. I mean, sometimes like the whole damn song is just happening the first time I'm listening to it. I'm scrambling to like try and write it down or, record it into another recorder while I'm playing his track so I don't lose it, because it's like trying to catch smoke sometimes, if you don't jump on the idea right away. So yeah, out of two tragedies, and then Ricky, actually, you came up with the name for the band, didn't you? Out of that one song we did, Back Up Again.
You came up with the name of the band because we posted from a lyric. So that's how that came about. Yeah, you mentioned.
It's an example for you. Just to interrupt you a minute, Ricky. There is a perfect example for you, Wayne, and everybody else, of one of the other reasons why this works musically with me and Ricky is there's no ego involved. I say Ricky comes up with the name of the band, and he goes, "No, actually, you did because you."
Yeah. Again, inadvertently or otherwise, But it was definitely taken from a lyric that Luke had written, and we were sort of umming and ahhing initially how we're going to come up with a name for the band, and say this Twisted Wreckage, we went backwards and forwards with it, and we were both saying how great it sounded, and we've had feedback from other people that are saying that's a great name for a band, So
it can mean it. The good thing about it, it's got so many meanings, hasn't it? This Twisted Wreckage, because
absolutely, yeah.
Let's be honest, with mental health now being spoken about a lot more, it's and you sing a lot about the difficulties that life brings us. The combination of how edgy, unique, and the drive that you've got in the songs. It's how you've kept that sort of going, that consistency is fantastic. You've been very prolific, but obviously you not only gel, but you must inspire each other by does the music tend to come first then, Ricky, and you give it to Luke?
More often than not, yes. Luke has sent me. There's been a few songs. I'm thinking "She Comes to Me," which is on the. Well, we released that as a video track anyway.
Yeah, really good song.
That was sent to me. Luke sent me that originally as it was just vocal and guitar, and then I just sort of thought this has got so much going for it that I could have a play with this and turn it into something else. But as I say, more often than not. Yes, I'll sit there and come up with some basically soundscapes and bits and pieces, or again, it's sort of fairly new wavy type sort of vibes. I've always got one foot in the 80s anyway, so there's always a lot of that being dragged back to sort of 2020, sort of onwards to 24. It's always been that sort of situation. I can't help myself, and I can't apologise for that because I think music from that period was just so dynamic. So expensive, it has so much to offer. So
definitely, new wave, ska, the mix. From my perspective, obviously, I'm an 80s kid. In that it was my first real decade of music. How lucky was I to be there experiencing it? Even though what I would call the tackies 80s music that we appreciate now has got something about it. The drum machines that suddenly took over from acoustic drums. As much as I love live drums, it sort of started in that decade. And let's be honest, it suits what you do. what I do outside of my radio work. You know, it's great to be able to get a beat and get that beat from anywhere. Really, you can download and kickstart things from just a piece of percussion.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I spent the early part of my music career. I spent my, you know, from the age of say 15 onwards, I literally spent probably the first 10 years in debt, really. You know, because there was £1,000 for a TR-909. I think the Elka Synthex that I bought was £8,000. You know, I was only earning £60 a week. So everything had to go on credit, you know. That's just kind of how it was back in the day. But music was everything, you know. So again, all those parts, or those components that add to music as you go along, they play such a vital role. Whether it's as you say, like with the drum machines being quite cold and harsh and that sort of thing. It just adds another dynamic, really. You know, I spent 15 years in a live band, you know, sort of playing guitar, bass sort of music and that sort of thing. And live drums are great. I had an excellent drummer, really great drummer. But again, when you've got that very disciplined sort of beat going on, and you know, you can tweak it a little bit, but it's not that easy. And the books are about sort of this thick, you know, mostly in Japanese probably, but you only read the first page.
Of course, there's blokes who don't read instructions.
No, of course not. The picture was nice on the front. I remember getting that far.
Well, to say that you've been prolific in the last 4 years is an understatement. Going back to what I said earlier about the 2 albums that you released last year, and you've got an imminent release, which we'll talk about shortly. But it's an obvious question, but how do you keep that inspiration going? And secondly, jump in whenever you're ready. For me, when do you know a track in particular, it's like, wow, I've got it? Because when you make a lot of music, it's easy after a while, isn't it, to sort of become a bit formulaic. So I'm wondering how you keep that inspiration flowing between the two of you.
Yeah, from my point of view, it's more about the groove. I've always been a bassist. It's always been about the groove. So drums, bass, that type of thing. So you know, I'll set myself up to get something good, get a vibe going, that sort of thing. If I can feel something, then I think others will feel something as well. And then I'll start layering that up then with sort of guitars and sort of keyboards and that sort of thing. And then send it off to Luke. But I think the inspiration is I never know what I'm going to get back. So even though I've created something this end, my interpretation of what Luke has seen would be completely different to what I get back, which is always invigorating and always exciting. And as I say, you just never know. So therefore, and again, we try to stay away from the generic types of styles of writing, if you like. The only time we did anything that was relatively formulaic was probably 3x10, where we sort of said we was going to do these 10 3-minute sort of punkish or new wave sort of songs. Yeah. But otherwise, I've always felt that for me anyway, that you serve the song and the song should last as long as it needs to last. As simple as that. And if Luke's got more to say, then we expand upon it. If he feels that there's, you know, he said enough, then we may condense the track a little or expand a little bit on the instrumental side of things.
Yeah, and from my point of view, I think I said this before in the last interview I did with you, Wayne, but it's like when I get a piece of music from Ricky now, it's like I'm a kid at Christmas. It's like, yes. And also, as this has progressed and continued to kind of blow me away what the finished results have been, you know, the production work that Ricky does on the way he builds things after I send him something back is amazing. And so I feel this, God, I don't want to use the word responsibility because I'm probably one of the least responsible people that I know. But I feel this sense of responsibility Yeah, I'm very responsible. I just said that because it sounds like a kind of a rock and roll thing to say. I feel this sense of responsibility to Ricky's music. To, you know, I'm not just going to sing blah, blah, blah or whatever, you know. And, oh, one thing when I think of it, just to go back to talking about the name, this Twisted Wreckage. I'll talk about that later. It's okay. So, yeah, I feel like I have a responsibility to not come up with just sort of formulaic lyrics. So the thing is, Ricky and I have some musical background and influence in common. I'm ancient, so mine actually goes back to the 60s. But Ricky's introduced me to bands I wasn't aware of, like Porcupine Tree and Steve Wilson's music. Just that blew my mind. I'm like, how have I never heard this band? You know, this guy's just incredible. And again, he's kind of doing it in a room somewhere with a bunch of his mates and some gear, you know, and they put this band together that has been massively successful in certain parts of the world, and just incredible music and videos. So there's a lot of inspiration from, you know, we have bands in common that we like 9 Inch Nails, Depeche Mode, Gary Newman. You know, but I go way back to, you know, I remember the first Black Sabbath album, 1970. You know, I'm so old. I was 18 when Black Sabbath's first album came out, you know, and I was like, this is brilliant. It's about the devil. It's got bells on it and rain falling. She was like, this is wonderful. Fucking hell, I love this. Oh, I swore, there you go. Anyway.
That's okay. You're on a beautiful indie show and anything goes on my show.
Anyway, so
I'm going to tell you off anyway, Luke. I'm going to tell you about one thing that you said there. You're not ancients. You two guys are really, really cool, because what you're doing at the moment is so relevant. There is no, what's the word? You're authentic. The fact that you're not using stupid gimmicks on your voice, for example, the lyrics, everything that you write is meaningful. The fact that you're still doing it, you haven't blanded out like a lot of bands can. If anything, you've gone more edgier, and you're pushing the envelope more and more with what you do, and that is phenomenal. A lot of bands do get a bit, you know, this, I'm a bit comfortable now because this is successful or semi-successful, but the both of you're not only at it, but you've got a point about what you do. And you know what? Don't say you ancient, Luke. I want to be as cool as you now. Honestly. So
somebody did say to me some years ago, a friend of mine, a musician here in California, and he said, you know, one of the great things about you and your music, he said, is Sting has to sound like Sting. Yeah. Bono has to sound like Bono. U2 has got to sound like U2. The Rolling Stones have to sound like the Rolling Stones. Exactly. You don't have to sound like anybody. You can sound like anybody you want to, you know. And I think that's one of the great things in the music that Ricky composes is a similar thing. It's like it's groove based, and it can be as experimental as Ricky wants it to be, you know. And so we kind of have a common sound to the band. I mean, it's like, oh yeah, that's what this Twisted Wreckage sounds like. But there's so much stuff, especially in some of the stuff we haven't released, experimental stuff that still sounds like us, that's still edgy, that still has something to say, some definite points to make about the human condition or the world. You know, I don't write too many love songs. Like, I was courting my wife. I wrote her a few love songs. I recorded her a CD. It was all part of the courtship. Since then, I don't think, other than She Comes to Me, I don't think I've written anything that would approach. Oh no, there's that song, I've Been Seeing Her. Yeah, but nobody's heard that one yet. So more about, you know, being experimental with how I feel about the world in my words, in my lyrics, you know. It's like, well, I look at the world and I go, oh my God. I watched that Oppenheimer movie. with my son and my wife, at least. My daughter's away at college, and it was a really powerful movie, and it had a lot to say about power and fame. You know, well, it's not rock stars; it's scientists and presidents and military lunatics. You know, so it all comes into this Twisted Wreckage's purview. You know, of whether it's politics or religion or social, you know, things that are going on socially. Yeah.
I think from our point of view, we aim for the truth and to be honest, and then the other thing being, from the first song to the last song, is like from the first song to the second song, say for instance, it was a case of the goalposts have moved, because as I say, I sent Luke a backing track, he sent me the vocal, and I thought, you know, here we go, this is something special. And then I had to set my game up by sending him the next track, you know, so, and hope that he would like that. And then he sent me back another vocal, which was even more dynamic and more exciting. And I'm thinking, right, okay, so here we go again. So again, you're expanding upon that, you know, so you're constantly pushing the boundaries all the time in order to sort of feed the hunger, really, in all fairness, you know, because I don't want Luke getting bored. I don't want him to go, oh, I've had enough of this now, time to join another band. So yeah, so from that point of view, it's just always it's this sort of we're constantly pushing each other, really, you know. So it's, as I say, that there's always this dynamic which is forever expanding, and as I say, it's more about the truth and the honesty and this observation of what's going on within the world. Whether we agree on everything that Luke says is neither here nor there. The important thing again is that, as I say, what Luke says, I have to then interpret, and then it needs to serve the song, you know. So I then make some adjustments accordingly. If again, you know, whether it be sort of soundscape wise or whatever it's going to be, to sort of help the vocal along a little bit, or whatever the situation, whether it be, you know, sound effects or whatever it's going to be. But thank you for your comment. I mean, that was fabulous, really. For sure.
Great example of what Ricky just said was about interpretation was that there's the song on 3 times 10 equals 29 called "Get Your Hands Off of Me," and in my mind when I was writing that, I was basically writing it about the government. You know, get your hands off of me. They're not where they're supposed to be. You know, and yet Ricky, when he put a video together. By the way, Ricky puts all the videos together, and they are absolutely stunning, mates. And they're all royalty.
They're so good.
They're kick-ass videos. They really are. Anyway, when Ricky put the video to "Get Your Hands Off of Me," turned it into a thing about kids bullying in school, and it was perfect. So it was like a complete reinterpretation of my lyrics, and I thought, well, yeah. And you know where political and social bullying starts? It starts in school.
Yeah.
You know, and it goes out. When people treat each other, they bully each other. So it was a perfect interpretation of my lyric that I wasn't even thinking about when I wrote the lyrics. So
that's great, isn't it? Because that shows us as people, you know, we have different perceptions and different ideas.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes us unique. In sometimes misinterpretation makes it a bit more interesting. You know, so I'm obviously people are going to listen to the audio of this interview first before I put it out on YouTube. So it's a bit of an obvious question, but I think it's a good one. So anyone listening in to today's beautiful indie show special, if they were to start with a track by this Twisted Wreckage, where would you recommend? And you've obviously got an amazing amount of tracks and songs, but is there somewhere that you got to sell? You got to sell to a new punter, for example. I'm really interested in this band. I mean, I've got a personal favourite of my own, which I go back to time and time again. I'm not going to bias you, but Techno Savage, the 10-minute version of that. I love it. Obviously, I love the sort of album shortened version, whatever. But that is epic. Yeah, sure. But that's my personal favourite. Have you got tracks where you would say this is a a go-to to begin the journey to this twisted wreckage?
You go first, Luke. I've got to think.
Okay, one answer is start at the beginning with track 1 on the first album, Dancing with Angels. But,
yeah,
but again, that would only be, it would be like you've got this landscape, right? This panoramic landscape, and somebody's built a wall, and there's a door in the wall, and in the door there's a keyhole, and you can look through the keyhole, and that's what you can see of this twisted wreckage, with pretty much whichever first song you choose. I'm going to say you're a man of consummate taste, Wayne, and that people should start with Techno Savage, because
yeah, and why not? Yeah,
that one. I mean, I'm really proud of all of them. That's the other thing, and it varies from song to song. It's weird because the latest video, Peripheral, from the new album, The Kingdom of the Blind. At one point, I thought, well, maybe that one we could leave out. And Ricky's like, no, what are you, crazy? You can't leave that out, you know. And I listened to it again. I went, oh, yeah, he's right. It's got some hooks in there, yeah. And then he makes the video, and it's just like, damn. So Techno Savage, I would say, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Luke, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the show with Techno Savage, then play the interview, and then play the new album. So that's my plan, and that wasn't sort of pre-planned. That's just been spontaneous. I thought, well, I've got to start with a track before the interview goes out on the radio. So I would do that. But Ricky, I'll tell you what, this is good now, because obviously we're talking as friends. After I play Techno Savage, I'm going to play whatever you would like me to play. Let's open the show with two tracks before the interview kicks in.
What's going to follow that? I normally sort of sequence songs according to the album, you know what I mean? So
yeah, of course.
I'll have to be one of the new ones. I think we might have to go to the Power after that. If we can fit that in. Are you going to be following up with the album anyway?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna play the whole album after this interview. But you know what? Have a think about it. We can talk after this if you like. I tell you what. Message me afterwards and say, hey Wayne, after Techno Savage, this is gonna. Please play this one.
I'm just trying to think what would follow that on.
Yeah. Well,
other than what's on the album.
Yeah.
Well, you've only got 174 to choose from, mate. So you know.
No, it's a bit of a
sport for choice.
The real problem is, I mean, I don't have with all the albums that we've done so far. It's like I don't have particular favourites, but on particular days I do sort of lean more towards other songs. So songs like The City, for instance, when that comes on, I forget just how good that is, because I've always had a real big admiration for here we go, I've forgotten what it's called now, but the soundtrack from hang on, that's lost.
From a film, soundtrack from a film.
Yeah, from the theme from Shaft.
Oh, so, okay. Yeah.
I've always loved that particular song, and just the vibe of it and everything else, you know. And with The City, it was that was my sort of attempt at not recreating it, but sort of homage, if you like, you know, to that.
Okay.
It's always loved that track.
Well, Techno Savage. To be honest, Ricky, be a good track.
Savage.
If you agree, you know.
Yeah. No.
That's great. Well, thanks for that.
It's a very, very different song, though. That's the only thing.
That's good. That's good. I you know, for me, that's.
Some of
again, I say I occasionally have the tracks or the album sort of playing back to back or whatever the situation. Sometimes they're randomised. Consequently, it doesn't work quite so well sequenced that way. But as I say, every time that song comes on, I'm just kind of like, you know, having a bit of a jig while I'm cooking dinner or whatever it is. So it's just one I particularly enjoy, that one.
Nice one. Well, look, we're about half an hour in to the interview, and so as I say, what I'm planning to do is play those couple of tracks. We'll sort of play the interview, and then we will go into the new album. So Luke, you've had you've had a tough year health-wise, which is why it's so, you know, I so admire you making a couple of albums during, you know, having chemotherapy treatments. How are you doing at the moment?
Oh, I'm doing great now, thank you. Yeah, the chemo, it took a year, and I finished last month. And talking of the name, the band having different interpretations, the first time I went to meet my oncologist, I got the diagnosis that I had chronic lymphocytic leukemia, and that I'd had it for a long time, but it was now starting to have you know, unfortunate side effects, kind of painful ones. So I go to see my oncologist, who's an amazing doctor, and he tells me they got this new treatment that they didn't have 5 years ago. It's going to involve daily chemotherapy for a year. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, you know. So I said, well, look, and I was wearing this T-shirt. And I said, and I said, well, all right. I said, the thing is, I do meditation twice a day. Prior to having leukemia, I had heart failure, right? And I beat heart failure. It took me 4 years, but I beat it. I spent 6 months walking around with a portable defibrillator on in case my heart stopped. Wasn't a heart attack situation. It was oh, you'll go a bit dizzy and your heart will stop, but this machine will detect it. I went on planes with this thing. It was like I had plastic strapped to me front and back, and I'd have to go through, you know, security. Anyway, so my cardiologist actually said, Mr. James, you're like a rock star of heart failure recovery. You make my job worthwhile. I'm like, you're welcome. So I'm talking to my oncologist, and I told him, I'm a musician, you know, and I'm involved in a band at the moment. I said, in fact, this is the band I'm involved in at the moment. I've been creating music with this band now for a few years, and this Twisted Wreckage. I said, it's a pretty good description of me, huh, Doc? And he laughed. This guy he wasn't one of these happy, jolly. He was a brilliant oncologist, a cancer survivor himself. But he wasn't a man that would easily laugh. And I made him chuckle. I made him laugh.
You.
Yeah. So, I mean, to be honest, when you get your second, you probably won't survive this, Mr. James, thing from a different doctor. In, you know, the second one, it does tend to kind of light a fire under your ass to, well, let's get as much done as I can while I can. This could be your posthumous work, Luke. You know, it's like, now I'm in the wonderful situation that to all intents and purposes, there is no cure for what I've got, but it's being pushed into durable remission. In other words, I'm probably going to die of something else before this comes back, hopefully, you know.
Oh. Well, fantastic, absolutely brilliant. You know, the fact that you got through it and you're so positive and retained your humour and everything about you, Luke. Did it inspire you? Did it inspire you to write lyrics in a different way with what you were going through?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, The Peripheral is about that. It's about, you know, I was sitting there thinking, Ricky had sent me the music, and I was thinking, you know, everybody thinks their life is kind of like a movie, and movies always have like tidy endings, you know, but lives don't end tidily. They just end when they end, you know. It comes for you out of, you know, like Lennon said, life's what happens when you're busy making other plans. And I'm pretty sure he stole that from somebody, but anyway, there's nothing new under the sun. And I thought, no, you know, when you go, it like, you're doing this, and it comes out of the side of your peripheral vision and goes, wallop, that's your lot. The last thing you hear, the last thing you see before you lay down and die. But everybody denies that. Firstly, everybody's thinking, well, I'm not going to die. It's not going to happen to me. So the lyric at the beginning is, no, not me. No, you see, no, not me. It cannot be. So it's like, yes, you know, it's true. It's coming for you. You don't know when, and it'll come out of the peripheral and hit you. So coming to terms with my own mortality, you know, I'm not in any hurry to not be here because I'm having such a fucking amazing time. Especially being in a band with this bloke, you know, it's like the best band I've ever been in. Do you know how many bands I've been in? So I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I have been in a lot of bands, different styles.
Ditto, ditto.
When I walked away from wanting to be famous in 1980, I walked into being a musician with whoever wanted to play with me, you know, whoever I could find to play with. And I've been in a house blues band in a dive bar in San Francisco. I've been in a reggae band. I've been in a garage band in the suburbs. You know, I've been in acoustic bands. I've worked on other people's albums. You know, just as a musician, but with no wanting to be famous necessarily. But this band, from the point of view of the music, and how proud I am and how I listen to it sometimes and I think, bloody hell, that's me. It's like, I was involved in that. Oh my God, I wrote those words. Blimey, you know. So
I suppose the complication and the $1 million question is, and I'll put this to you, is you obviously can't play live. Does that ever sort of make you, I don't want to say frustrated is the right word, but what works, obviously, and you are, you know, UK, USA, you recorded all of this work and you're going to carry on making more and more music, that goes without saying. But do you ever hanker for the days of, I really like to put this out in front of an audience?
Without a doubt. Yeah, we have spoken about it a lot. Just briefly going back to your previous question to Luke, during his, I mean, I began work with Luke during his recovery from obviously the heart problems he was having and that sort of thing, and I could feel his strength, if you like, increasing during that period. And then when he announced then that he had the leukemia and all the rest of it, it was difficult to know whether, from my point of view, I should back off, because obviously, you know, I mean, his family had a lot to deal with as well. So, but Luke was relatively insistent, if you like, you know, where's the next song then, you know? So, and basically what I was doing at that point then was just sort of like feeding material back to Luke. And then, I mean, he must have been literally dragging himself out of bed to a mic in order to sort of sing the next track. And sometimes within 24 hours, I was getting the song back. You know, and it was workable material. It wasn't like it was rubbish, or it was. We had one song which sounded very, very weak. Is not the right word, but you could hear the suffering in it, and that became a track. I used that to its full advantage, to be honest with you, because it just needed to lend. It lent itself so well to the song anyway.
And is that on the new album then, Richard?
No, that was on one of the what was that called? It'll come back to me later. I can't remember what it's called right now. Having so many songs, it's a bit of a problem. But as I say, you know, I'm just amazed. This man's work ethic. I was in the band for 15 years, and I think we probably put together about 15 songs that were giggable. You know what I mean? It was kind of that sort of situation. There was so much, because it was a 4-piece. You got so much back and forth with what song are we going to use live and this, that, and the other. And it became so mundane and so laborious, it wasn't fun anymore. Whereas we don't get a lot of time to think, really. As I say, I'm literally sending a song, you know, I could send it overnight, and the following morning I've got something back. Luke being in America, obviously, he's up different hours. So, you know, I generally have a song back by the time I got back up. You know, so it's crazy stuff, really, when you think about it. But, yeah, going back to the live thing now, yeah, we have spoken about that quite a lot. Obviously, with one problem with Luke being the other side of the world is a bit of an issue, if you like, but, or me, in my case, but, you know, having to deal with his health issues and that sort of thing, and making sure he's in the right place before we even begin that journey. But it's not off the cards. It's something we've spoke about. And I could put a band together and get them rehearsed probably within a couple of months, ready to go. You know, so if we were to do it this side of the pond, you know. However, if we do it the other side of the pond, then, you know, we have to. It's a whole new sort of. It's a different ball game, really. So we'll have to see how that pans out going forward.
It'd be more likely we'd do it in England. So there's still a few people around that remember me. Hopefully, a few anyway. And other than that, I've got my younger brother still lives in Birmingham, so it'd be an opportunity for me to see him. I haven't seen him for years. And Yeah, I think the thing would be, we'd have to. I don't want to play in front of thousands of people or anything, but we'd have to make sure that there was at least going to be a pub room full, or
Yeah.
all right, 2 men and a woman and a dog. As long as the dog is given for free.
In all fairness, and again, I know we've mentioned this a few times to Wayne, being the new John Peel, but like a Wayne Moseley session would be the way to go. I think that's what we need. So a live session for the studio would be fantastic.
Yeah,
pull that off and then have a gig afterwards. That'd be even better still.
Yeah, well, I've had some like acoustic. As you know, I do. I've got Wayne's Acoustic Dimension on my other show that I do on another station, where people have submitted session tracks to me. Oh yeah, I mean, I'd love for you to do a session for me. I'm conscious of the time. We've got around about 5 to 10 minutes because I want to put the interview out and I want to play the whole album as well. So moving on to the new album then. The Kingdom of the Blind. I believe, is there a book or film of that title as well, or is it that coincidence, or were you inspired by something to set that title as the album?
Well, that phrase pops up in a couple of the songs. So there isn't actually a song called The Kingdom of the Blind, but that phrase came into the lyrics. And I don't know, I get frustrated that sometimes the obvious answer of treating people kindly and with respect and decency is right in front of us. And yet it's almost like everybody's walking around like this. No, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. No, I can't see anybody else's problem. I've got my own problems. And it's like I'm in this kingdom where people are not only refusing to see what's actually going on. Climate change, never heard of it. It's rubbish, Give me some more money. Or people are wearing blindfolds, so like pretending to be somebody other than who they are. I mean, I'll find one to talk because I've spent a large part of my life with stupid names, pretending to be somebody that I'm not, but at least I'm doing it in the name of rock and roll, man. But yeah, it just gets really frustrating, and the fact that not only the United States but also the UK is so divided now. I think you guys are more divided between two really horrible ways of thinking. What I think are almost as bad as each other, and they are here. Here we cling to this, oh well, these guys are being logical, and these guys are just power-hungry maniacs, But the divide is there, and it's almost like everybody's wandering around just seeing their own little thing. And if you look at the kingdom as a whole, or the human race as a whole, it's almost like take your hands away from your eyes. And, that door in the wall, open it. There's a landscape beyond there. There's a whole world. You could walk into it and we could all live in that. I'm sounding like a damn hippie now, but I did used to be one. So there you go. So, yeah, I mean, it's just frustrating that to me, very often it's so obvious treating people the way you would want to be treated. So even Eddie Izzard says that's like his golden rule. It's in the Bible and all that, apparently, as well, along with all the other horrible stuff that's in the Holy Bible. Not to insult anybody's religion, but...
Well, if we look at what's going on in the world at the moment, say no more. It is a horrible... say no more about Israel and... and what have you. But it is also great inspiration for creatives like ourselves, because
absolutely
there's always going to be turmoil in the world and in our lives, and let's be honest, as a result of that, it gives you inspiration, because your lyrics are so poetic, and the fact that it's just two of you in this Twisted Wreckage, it gels so well. yeah, as I said, I'm blown away by just the quality of what you keep putting out. You know, the visuals that go with it as well bring things to life, because again, you've got that logistical thing where you can't really be in each other's videos there physically at the moment, and you've been able to circumnavigate that really well. I think there's a nice bit of mystery about what you do, which in some ways I've exposed today in today's interview, which is good, because I want people to get to know, you know, the two people behind this Twisted Wreckage, because obviously I've raved about you for a while, and you know, my listeners have picked up on some of my favourite bands that I play on a regular basis, and it's good that people are going to hear this and then see you and realise that, you know, between all three of us, we've got lots of years of experience, but we absolutely love what we are doing now. It's all about the now, really.
I don't know whether you can see this, but the image that we chose for the cover of the new album pretty much sums up what I was talking about.
That's
you
brilliant.
know, Kingdom of the Blind. And yeah, Ricky's done an amazing job designing the CD. There will only be a limited number of CDs, unfortunately, because we don't have a record company or a deal or a rich spot.
So relate to that. But we're coming to the end of the interview. We've got around about 3 or 4 minutes. So the $1 million question is, where can people buy the new album from?
Bandcamp all day long. Yep.
Okay. So they type in This Twisted Wreckage, Bandcamp. They can either get a physical CD or download it, I believe.
Absolutely, yeah.
And also, Ricky put together a lyric booklet, a PDF of a lyric booklet, so you can get all the lyrics in a really nice layout booklet with some artwork in it. You just download that, and yeah, and it'll be streaming on the you know, the stealing services, as I call them. Yeah.
A great way of putting it. Well, look, I'm going to sign off now. Thank you both for your time today. Honestly, it brings me great joy to speak to both of you. I hope one day I can meet you physically in person. You brought a lot of sunshine to my life, because with the, you know, when I get great music like yours, I look forward to any new stuff that you send me, because there's a group of you now that I view as my hardcore unique artists, whereby it's just consistent, and it's, you know, for me, I love it. That's what keeps me going as well.
Thank you, and thanks again no, seriously, from the bottom of our hearts, thanks again for naming us Band of the Year for 23. That was, let's say, unbelievable. Just moved me so much. You know, I was taken aback big time by that. Well, you deserve it.
You deserve it. And who's going to be Band of the Year this year? It's going to be hard to beat you. Honestly, beat this Twisted Wreckage, because you've set the bar very, very high. So I'm going to sign off now. I'm going to click off the record button, but that means that we can still carry on the conversation afterwards. So I'm going to bid goodbye, and thanks for your time, Luke and Ricky.
Thank you, Wayne.
You both.
Thank you.
Thanks to anyone that buys the CD. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm going to encourage my listeners, get out there and support this Twisted Wreckage. So take care, both. I'll be.
Thanks, Wayne. All the best. Take care, mate. Good luck.
Bye.
Bye now.